we're back on the road to City Hall. Last week, a jury convicted two former fundraising associates of my first guest. They were convicted of attempted wire fraud in what is known as a straw donor scheme involving illegal campaign donations. He has denied knowing anything about the scheme, and last week he held an impromptu news conference where he asserted that the verdict will not affect his campaign for mayor. Joining me now to talk about the verdict and much more, we've got City Controller John Liu. Welcome back to the program. Good to see you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
It was it had to be a tough day for you to see Jenny Ho and Oliver Pan convicted. But one of the things you said afterwards is that despite what happened to them, you're proud of the fundraising and the controls and I guess the manner in which you've gone out and raised funds. And I was
almost $3.5 million. Yes, it was a sad day, and I don't think Jenny deserves any of this. But the fact remains that my campaign goes full speed ahead. We have raised funds and continue to raise funds long after the pundits declared my candidacy dead over a year ago. I'm gratified for the tremendous amount of support, monetary and otherwise, that we continue to garner from people all across the city.
When you say she doesn't deserve any of this, I mean, do you know something that the jury didn't know?
I believe in Jenny. She's told her side of the story. I believe in the jury process, but I also believe in the appeals process, and my understanding is that they're certainly going to appeal this.
Do you know on what grounds?
That's for the lawyers to decide. I don't know the specifics of the legalities here, but I do understand this, that Jenny was a very hardworking individual who had the strength of her beliefs and what she wanted to do. She was a community activist. When I met her, she was part of a student movement that was trying to do something here in New York City. And she signed on to my campaign in '09. She worked her tail off, and to the point where when I was looking for someone who we could really depend upon to do the work and do the work right, that's when we selected Jenny as the treasurer. And in her capacity as treasurer, she worked a lot. And she also followed the guidance of the Campaign Finance Board. They were in constant communications as far as I can tell. And that's where she got her guidance from every step of the way.
Well, when you defend her and you defend Sharon Lee, who testified in court under oath that she had basically organized a handful of straw donors to contribute to you. I mean, when the prosecutors say that you were the intended beneficiary of this, whether you knew personally about it or not, there's no other reason for them to be doing these things, right?
Well, okay. My campaign is the intended beneficiary, not me personally. And my campaign has never been just about me. It's been about a community that is seeking to have a voice, that is seeking to provide input into a city that we all now call and love as home. In the case of these two individuals, I've never said that my campaign is perfect. I believe what we've done has been above board. Jenny and Sharon apparently made some serious errors in judgment. Federal crimes? I'm not sure about that.
I think everybody agrees that a 45-year sentence is a horrible punishment for anything. I mean, you get 25 years if you kill someone. But what would be an appropriate punishment?
That's for the process to decide. And again, Jenny is certainly going to appeal as far as I can tell. But let's step back for a second here. They have not been going after Sharon or Jenny or anybody else. I think we can agree on that, right? For some reason, and I have no idea what the reason is, they've been after me. And this investigation is now going on 4 years. They have interrogated thousands of my supporters. And at the end of the day, according to the trial, they were able to substantiate a handful of straw donors, which we will certainly refund immediately. But was there any way that my campaign could have known about that? We were deceived into accepting these contributions. An FBI undercover operation into a campaign, does every campaign get that kind of thing to make sure everything's kosher? And wiretapping my cell phones and several other phones for a period of 18 months. And all they can get is Jenny asking her boyfriend for a contribution, which he gave, which then she denied. And who knows what kind of banter there was there. The prosecutor putting Sharon on the stand, granting her immunity that she never asked for because they were trying to make her look guilty in the first place. And after they compelled her to take the stand, she rejected that immunity anyway because she didn't want to appear that anything had gone wrong. I mean, this is what we have after all this. And it's upsetting.
It's
upsetting.
Are you sorry you tried to raise money using the campaign finance program?
No, absolutely not. I have always, in all the campaigns I've run in New York City, have followed the campaign finance rules, and we have benefited from a system that levels the playing field. I wish I didn't have to raise money. I wish I was like Michael Bloomberg. I could write myself a $100 million check to go into the campaign. But I've got to raise funds like everybody else. I've substantiated how I've got stronger restrictions on the kinds of funds that I will accept on the campaign. But no campaign can defend itself against deception. We are allowed to, and we certainly do rely upon the fact that people use personal checks, not company checks, and that they fill out contribution forms, which we have done, and we've monitored the compliance of our contributors. But that's the extent to which any campaign is expected to adhere to the rules. I am confident that if any campaign in New York City or elsewhere was subject to the level of scrutiny that my campaign has been put under and that Jenny has been put under, we would be far head and shoulders above everybody else.
Why do you think you're getting what you're calling extra scrutiny?
I have no idea. But like I said from the get-go, it doesn't matter to me what their motivations are. I don't second guess the federal authorities or any investigators for looking into what they might see as wrongdoing. But at some point, when does it end? The undercover operation started 2 years into the investigation, at which point, as far as we could tell, they didn't have anything. Even after listening to on my phone conversations for an extended period of time. At that point, they initiated that undercover operation that then ensnared Mr. Pan, who ultimately made the wrong decision. Even though, according to the news reports, for 5 months, he rejected those overtures, and then at the end of the day, he messed up.
Some of your supporters have said that you're getting extra scrutiny because you're a liberal Democrat. Some have said because you're an immigrant. Some have said because you're Asian. Do any of those sound like possible motivations from your point of view?
I've been through many things in my life where any number of those things could have been the motivation behind certain hardships that I have had personally. But you know, I don't give excuses. I'm not trying to say it's wrong because of that. I simply said, go ahead, do this. If there's any wrongdoing in my campaign, I want to be the first to know about it. And that's why after the New York Times inquiry, I initiated an independent review of my campaign finances. And then shortly thereafter, I became aware of this federal investigation, at which point I stopped the independent review for fear that it might interfere with the federal investigation. But from the first moment that I heard that this investigation was going on, I've never said this is unfair. I've never said that they shouldn't be doing this. I've said, okay, well, if you think something's going on, look for it. But after 2 years, all they could come up with is setting up an FBI undercover sting operation. That, Errol, no campaign could defend themselves against an undercover operation that deceived their way into my campaign, getting my folks to think that those contributions were legitimate. And that's in fact what happened. We thought those contributions were legitimate. It turned out otherwise. But there was no way we could tell.
I heard you say recently that you might go on a national fundraising tour. I think it was in response to somebody raising the possibility that the Campaign Finance Board might not give you any matching funds, that based on the convictions, they might just kick you out of the program.
And you know, I still believe in the Campaign Finance Board program and what they do. They work very hard. I think they're overworked. They don't get enough resources. I hope that they don't determine that, because I think that we have shown a huge level of grassroots support. We've gotten more small donations, and my average contribution is less than any of the major candidates that I'm running against. So I'm very proud of our fundraising operation. And to the extent that the Campaign Finance Board thinks that maybe they cannot give me the matching funds, that we will be ready, because our well of support is deep, not only here in New York City, but nationally.
We're just about out of time, but I want to ask you in our last minute about your day job. You've put out a new website. It's supposed to go live tonight, so I haven't seen it yet. I don't think anybody has. What's it about? You're saying it's sort of a crowdsourcing budget ideas?
Well, it starts with the fact that for many years now, New Yorkers have been witness to this ridiculous budget dance that happens between the mayor and the council speaker, where the mayor threatens all sorts of ridiculous cuts that get people incensed. And then after months of protests and negotiations, At the last minute of this budget dance, the mayor and the council speaker waltz in and say that actually most of the cuts have been restored. It focuses attention on less than 1% of the city's budget. What we need to do is have a top-down review of all the budget items, the priorities, the possible new needs, and possible new sources of revenues. And so a couple of weeks ago, I released what I call the People's Budget.
You were here to talk about it. Yes.
That's right. And it outlines $15 billion of priorities over the next 4 years, both spending as well as new revenues. What we're now doing is putting this online. It's going to be at www.peoplesbudgetnyc.com, and it is a crowdsourcing tool. You know, you know how much I'm against outsourcing in the city. We've insourced a lot. Now we're crowdsourcing to get ideas directly from the people of New York City.
And so people can go on and say, what if we raise taxes, or what if we,
they can offer their suggestions.
Or something. Yeah.
They can offer their suggestions. They can also look at the multitude of ideas and either give a thumbs up or a thumbs down on each and every one of them.
You can like or not like. Okay, very good. Thanks a whole lot for coming by. Thanks to you for coming by to answer some tough questions. We're going to take a short break now. Still to come, 2 government watchdogs will join us to voice their concerns about the lack of transparency at little-known political clubs across the city and across the state. Also tonight, we'll talk with the mother of Trayvon Martin about her efforts to keep young men safe. And later on, we'll ask the 4 members of our Consultants Corner if Governor Cuomo should be doing more to weed out corruption in the state capitol. Stay with us.